child to have seizures. Her mother was taking her to see herbalists, and people were praying over her. And because the seizure disorder continued, she was told that she was of witchcraft. She was a voodoo. She was told that there was no hope for her. Her mother should basically give up on her. And it was a very challenging experience for me, because in my mind, I'm like, how do I keep one's culture, okay, because that's important. We got to keep our culture, but also merge together Western beliefs of medications, of therapy, of mental health supports. And it was a very challenging case for me to go on, because I left defeated, because the parent, no, this is my culture. I am of African descent. You're not going to tell me how to raise my kid, and this is what it is. And so I left there very defeated. I connected with some of the people in the office to ask questions, because I just did not know how I could help this child. And as I asked questions, I learned that there were other colleagues of mine that had had similar situations where the culture believes in the spiritual beliefs of your child is crazy, or they of witchcraft, or they have a curse. And then you have a child who just cannot advocate for themselves because they've been assimilated into Western practices. So I was so honored when Kenny asked me to come here and speak with you guys and to kind of moderate today's event, because I'm a person that I am culturally agile. Teach me. I'm ignorant. I don't know. So I want you guys to tell me how I should handle parents when they come in with their belief systems that's completely different from the system that I work in. So I thought it would be important that we further the conversation. Ola, are you okay with that? Yeah. So we're going to continue to have the conversation even though we don't have any more speakers. And I would just like to know, how can I better support your community? Because I'm all about being an ally. I'm all about mental health. I have a strong passion in mental health, and I do believe that people can recover if they have the right supports in place. And some of those supports mean us coming together and kind of embracing them for who they are. They're not intentionally trying to be crazy. They're not intentionally trying to want to kill themselves. Like what Uncle Sunday was talking about, I had it hit real close to home with a childhood friend of mine that was from the Liberian community. He hung himself. The anniversary of his death was, I think, about at least 5 days ago. And so we dealt with that. I known him all the way from 3rd grade, and we missed it. We missed the signs, you know. It was just, oh, he okay, he just drinking because he's stressed out, and we just ignored it. But he was really hurting. There was really some underlying mental health issues that were going unnoticed to some and untreated. So this is our time, this is our opportunity for me to gain knowledge, and then I can disseminate that into the community. So thanks, and thank you, Ola, for allowing me this time as well. So we can just go ahead, Kenny.
Can you respond to that?
Yeah.
Because I want to respond directly to that, because I have previous discussion with you on those issues. My name is Kennedy Tanimojo. I've been working in the field for 1996. I don't know how long is that. I was opportune to work in Nigeria, a few places, Child Development Center in Surulere, University College Ibadan, when I did my social work, and I continued with that field when I came to the United States. I'm presently working with Kemisha in NP Can Reach Child Crisis, and we have a discussion about the issue of Kemisha responding to Africa Home. And immediately the mother heard that, oh, the child has a mental issue. The woman flip up. And to the area that Kemisha was really confused with the reaction. Like, okay, I came to your home to provide support, and this is what I get. So Kemisha called 2 of us, that's African on the field, 2 or 3, me and
I talked to both of you guys,
yeah,
and then also Sama.
So Sama. So we started to provide that support for her. That when you go to African home, especially mother, you don't mention mental. When they have mental, that raises a red flag. He doesn't want to hear whatever I want to say after that. So what I will tell you is that when we're treating mental issue, we need to start with a gentle approach. Gentle, like, oh, this child needs a little bit of support. Let's start from support, not mental. Because when they are mental, they are going to be defensive. So because of the social stigma that really surround mental health issue in Africa, all the labeling, the family shame, all those things attached together. So people doesn't want to associate with that issue of mental health. And there is a continual denial, there is a continual historical evidence that, okay, probably will not support you having a mental health. Oh, it's stubborn. What he needs is flogging. You know, a lot of stuff. Oh, you need just support. You need prayer. You need to go fasting and prayer. All those things are what Africa will force dabble to before they come into accepting. So in this culture, when it comes to United States, we face with a lot of pressure, and part of what a mother will not get on his back is, okay, my child has to be medicated, my child has to go to therapy. All those things will be the last thing an African woman will have. Let me stop there now for other people to hear.
Yeah, my name is Femi Shaomi. I'm not prepared for this. I'm sure you saw that was just cool. Anyway, I have a medical background, so I have little experience in what they're saying. Though I didn't specialize in mental health, I'm into O&G, but I've had little experiences with my patients, so I can say some few things. Now, I'm a little bit confused. Are we going to relate it to mental health in Africa or mental health in Africans here? Because it's a little bit different, the way they perceive mental health. In Africa, the little experience I had is that it's difficult to really diagnose a patient with mental health. Most of the time, when you try to explain to them, it's either they are high, mania, or manic, or down, depressed. So treating them is try to bring them to the middle. So it's always difficult to diagnose them. Getting here, most of these illnesses are diagnosed from childhood, which is mostly seen by probably in their school, because it's difficult for parents to see or to accept that their children is having a mental health problem. So most of these things are diagnosed from school, and it's easily accessible through their social interactions. You know, that's the first way. So the moment they see a child not behaving exactly the way the other kids are behaving, then you can suspect something. In Africa, that is difficult. They'll probably say he's stubborn, needs to be beaten up or some other things, which at times it works. Am I right?
You are the product, so it works.
Yeah, so, but here they believe in treating them with medication, which also works. But I don't know the duration of that. So anyway, now diagnosing this in adulthood, before you can diagnose someone with mental health, there will be a bit of or more of antisocial behavior leading to either suicidal or being dangerous to your other fellows. So that is easier to diagnose for the adults here. So trying to tackle that, like what I said, most of the time is either on the higher side or on the lower side. So it's trying to bring them together. Now going to what my other colleagues are doing with their profession, which is very good. Their profession is able to catch these people earlier before they get outside, before they are dangerous to their other people, which I'm not really, I don't really have much experience in, but it's very good. So having this kind of, not a symposium, but having this kind of program should give us an enlightenment of how to deal with such things. When you have them come to your house, when they diagnose somebody close to you of having a mental health, have the awareness that it is possible and there is a treatment for it which can be cured with time. So I think that's the little I can just give for now, so I don't go above board.
Thank you. Well, I probably don't have a whole lot to add. The one thing I would say, however, again, go back to education, really. The way we were brought out at home is really very different from the way things are done here. And so that transition is difficult. Just to give you even a simple example that is not even with the children, say for example, there is a problem between husband and wife. This time we're not even talking mental health. We're just talking stress, a little here and there. And somebody goes to the wife or to the husband and says, oh, you guys need to go for therapy. The wife would look at it like, are you crazy? What therapy? Maybe I can talk to my pastor, which is good, except I made a comment before that sometimes we need to do both, because sometimes it's good to talk to the pastor, but sometimes the pastor is also relatively clueless when it comes to really some of the system of really helping families. The pastor will look at it from his own or her own training. So I'm not discouraging that, but all I'm saying is, even without the mental health, just the system here is very different from that. So going back to the mental health thing, my sense is we need to keep looking for ways to educate ourselves. You know, the lady that talks about, and this is a common knowledge in the literature, they will say, even in health, generally, the first generation of immigrants tend to be healthy. The second generation, the head goes up a little bit. By the time you get to the third, things will begin to look like the society in which they find themselves. By the time you get to the fourth generation, there's no difference between the people that have been there 10 years, 100 years, they're all the same. So now that we are getting more of Africans here, and we are beginning to go to second generations. Very soon we'll begin third generations. Unfortunately, we probably will see more of what the Americans are seeing in terms of mental health and health as a whole. So then what it means is we need to begin to train ourselves to know what to do. Thank you. So we need to begin to educate ourselves so that we are not at a disadvantage. Because if you have somebody like a social worker from wherever, and sure, it may good. But then for come to my house and I try to shop you, I probably mean good too. I just don't understand why you need to tell me my kid have mental health. And in your own way, you are trying to help me. So both have good intention. But because of my understanding, as Emmanuel said, as a parent, it's hard for me to even accept that anybody will say my kid has mental problem. When you combine that two things together, it might be hard for me to accept you with whatever you want to do for me. So education is what I would say, that we need to find ways through our churches, through our Umune, through our Odua, through our mind, through Uganda Association, Sierra Leone Organization, whatever we have out there, that we begin to find ways to bring this thing to forefront so that we can understand what's going on. Because unfortunately, as long as we're in this country, probably we'll see more of things like that.
Any questions or insight from the audience? Anybody want to speak?
My question would be, well, I'm asking everybody, like, which name can we call, because people understand party. If I say, okay, I want to celebrate birthday, you know, but when they hear mental health, they will feel, oh, you're calling mad people, you know, those that are crazy. You know, so how can we convey this message to our people? How can we spread it? Because if we can't get ourselves together to talk about this stuff, we'll continue to suffer in silence. There are a lot of us that are suffering. So, do we have any suggestion on what to do next? Because next time we want to come up with something like this. We want it to be well accepted among our people. You know, there are many people that said, oh, I will be there, but I don't understand it. A lot of people collected the IV and said, what is mental health? That's for the white people, you know? So how do we convey this to our people?
You don't have to stand up.
Well, Africans have community here, and you have to go out to your community. I mean, in the beginning it may be tough, but if you consist doing everything who is positive, go to our churches, go to the mosque, give prayers, talk to friends. Eventually, I mean, the trees doesn't have all the fruits one day. It takes time. This is new. But eventually, in 2 years, in 3 years, 4 years time, it may not even be our generation that will enjoy this. But look at the long run effect of it. And when the time comes, your name will be up there. Rosa Parks standing up to the bus conductors. Now, every one of us can sing in the bus. It takes courage. It takes a lot of time for us to do it. So I will encourage you to don't give up. Keep preaching to the community. Whoever you know that can help, keep talking to them. Eventually, it will work out.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think that's very important that we have to remember that progress sometimes is slow. And I think he's spot on. When some of us may not see it in this lifetime, it may come to the generations after us. So that's a really, thank you. I appreciate that insight. Did anyone else want to say anything to hit what he just said? We can keep going.
To contribute to what the other just said, I also think we need to speak our language. So when you said, when the flyer reads mental health, just like you said, a lot of people will be thinking it has to do with someone that is mad, right? But there are other contributing factors to that title, mental health, and maybe like behavioral problem that's more friendly to people, especially to our community. So maybe we want to water it down to pull people in and then talk to them. Thank you.
Good. Also, good point. Thank you, sister. I appreciate that. I think that's really important because when I was out in the field and I was dealing with a couple of cases that I was on, I didn't know, so I kept saying mental health, and I did notice that the parent was getting more and more upset. I'm basically coming in, telling her about her child and saying that her child is mad or crazy or has a curse. And in my mind, I was like, that's exactly the opposite of what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing. So I think semantics does play a big part in it. If we could find a better way to say that we're discussing mental health without saying mental health. So, some ideas, please.
Yeah, answering what the question my sister asked. Yeah, the word mental health is a little bit sensitive from our cultural background. So maybe next time we can use topics like health issue, which is a general one. So when you come out or when you come there, you pick whichever one suits your own side. Sometimes we treat mental people, we don't tell them to come for mental problems, we just say come for your medications. Like medical practice in Africa, most of the time we don't explain the medications we give to patients at times. We just tell you we are being treated, this is what you should use, this is how you should use it. You know, that compared to here that you have to explain everything. So next time you can just use the word health issue. I think that's general.
I am, okay, so my background is social work. I have a master's in social work, but I also have a master's in leadership and management. And I love research, so I'm kind of a geek in that way. But I went into the American Association of Suicidology, and it talks about the suicide rates amongst African Americans. And what I found very interesting, I could not find any research on just African suicide rates. So that shows you that there is probably not much research out there on the topic. And so anybody that's working on a dissertation, that could be a good research project. But the numbers that I have here, when we are talking about here in the United States, there was 2,500 African Americans that died by suicide in the US. And that made 80% was male, 481 were females. Another thing that I found that was very interesting is that 86.9% of the suicides were elderly African Americans. And then it even goes further to talk about how this number is disproportionate because we only make up a small percentage of the US, but our rates are at like 70%. So that's telling you that it's happening, but as always, as we know in the Black community, we don't talk about mental health and suicide. And so I wanted to just bring that up and ways that we can address that. One second.
I just want to make a point of correction to what you said. Because fourth generation of Africans are Africans. Second generation of Africans are Americans.
Okay.
So that's probably why you don't see that names Africans research on those communities. I work in the hospital. When they bring someone black to the hospital, it's all African Americans right away.
Yep. That makes sense. Thank you. Anyone else want to talk about that?
So,
Very scary.
so from what he just said, it means from generation to generation, we are losing the African part of us. He said the first generation of Africans will be called Africans. The next generation will be called African Americans, right? So that's very deep. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So just to be sure of your data, when you did your research, did you only focus on materials from the US or the Western world? Okay, maybe that would explain why you
that
didn't
makes
get
sense.
data for that research you were looking for. Because I
So how
bet
do I go? How do I
it will
find?
be international,
Okay.
for sure. There will be data out there. It might not be dated, but I'm sure there will be something for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to say hi, introduce myself. My name is XP. I'm with the city. I'm here just to participate and to contribute whatever information I can from the city of Brooklyn Park. So if you have any time later you want to talk, we can definitely connect. But I've been listening to the conversation, and I wanted to throw a little bit something out there. So I don't want to come off as speaking to you. I want because I don't know a lot about your cultures and your backgrounds. And I'm home, so I'm Asian. I'm from a different race. I'm not African, or I don't have any African ancestry with me. But as a fellow, as somebody who's concerned and somebody who's witnessed some mental health issues in my community, the Hmong community, coming here, going through, dealing with a lot of trauma, suicides, that has really affected this community too. I was wondering, I just wanted to ask a question about the African immigrant community, and if there is if you guys see a connection between mental health issues, particularly when it comes to like gender roles, and in terms of like more male roles or female roles in your cultures, and how that affects how you're approaching the topic of mental health in your communities.
Thank you. So did everybody understand what the question is? He wants to know how gender roles pay effect into mental health.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because as we saw in the little research that I did have, males were predominantly more dying by suicide than the females were. 2,000 was for the men, and it was only 405 or so for the women. So how does gender roles play into mental health?
In terms of research, I honestly don't have it, but I think in terms of the experiential experience, my experience is that part of why you have that big gap. You also see the same gap in health, even the one that is not even mental health. You look at the health statistics, women generally seem to fare better than men. And I think part of the reason is women, for the most part, tend to also take care of themselves than men. A very simple example of that, again, if you go back to marriage, when I was still part of people doing therapy, generally it's the women that's trying to drag the husband or the boyfriend to the therapy. And the boyfriend or the husband is saying, oh, it's your problem. Just go deal with it. When you solve your problem, you can come back. In the meantime, the problem is both, or maybe even more so for the men. So, if you take that same concept to the concept of mental health issues, more than likely when there is a diagnosis or there is a perception that something is going on, I think women tend to be a little more, what is the word? Kind of accept to treat. So their acceptance of what's going on and their willingness to accept treatment is a little easier, it's more. Whereas a lot of the guys, it's like, nothing's wrong with me, you can take me to this thing, I'm not going to take this medication, I'm just a guy, I'm going to toughen it out. Then something go wrong, you commit suicide or whatever the case may be. So that's just on the experience. Having been part of this for good 30 years in mental health issues, both in the American world and probably more so in the African world, men tend to be kind of martial men, where women tend to be a little more receptive to treatment. So that's my experience.
Kenny?
Okay, to support what Uncle just said, I will take it back to depression. When you look at the issue of depression, most cases with suicide ideation, suicide attempts is from depression. When you're depressed, when you get to that part of the side thinking about suicide thought, then running out of those thoughts. And when you're talking about depression, one thing that continuously works for depression to remove depression is ability for you to communicate, to vent whatever is going on, to relate to increase social engagement and interactions, which therapy provides. And in those ways that therapy provides, the same way that women tends to more open in terms of discussing their problem, talking to friends, compared to male counterpart. In African concept, man, like Uncle said, we want to top it up, he doesn't want to discuss those issues. I'm a man, I'm supposed to handle it. I don't need to talk to anybody about it. So when you compare the way women react to issues